kuahivila. E o pale hua kuahivila. Ke kuahivi no hoi kalani. O Kapolei kapula. Kapu'u no hoi ka'aina.
Aloha mai. My name is Abby Reed, a proud student of UH West Oahu and a team member of the Nāulu Center. I have the privilege and honor of interviewing Nāulu Center's special guest speaker, Mr. Puʻu Zablan, also known fondly as Pu'u, who is currently the assistant manager of Hoʻokupu Center, located at Kewalo Basin, and a former PICO project coordinator of the Nāulu Center. He is also the creator of the cherished Oli, created just for UH West Oahu. Every word of that Oli has since been memorialized and displayed on the wall of our administration building on the UH West Oahu's grand campus for all to admire. Pu'u will be sharing his story of the beautiful Oli and how it came to be, as well as the stories of the beautiful artwork we see on the walls of the Nāulu Center. Aloha mai, Pu'u. Welcome. Pehea oi out there in Paoa.
Auntie, good. I did really good. It's hot. It's hot out here on this side of the island, as it is probably out there in Kapolei too. So.
Yes, it is. It is such a pleasure to be able to talk story with you. A moment long overdue for sure. You have some history of the Nāulu Center and UH West Oahu's Oli, and we're anxious for you to share it with our campus community. So, can we talk story?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Nāulu Center was recently renovated to be what is now the beautiful Student Resource Center, which is located near the cafeteria and fitness center. Tell us the story first on how you became involved with the renovation and what you witnessed as far as its transformation and growth.
Well, I started at UH West Oahu about 5 years ago, I think in 2015. Student support services there, and then got the opportunity to go to UH West Oahu. Part of the PICO grant that you folks are still working under, it was a renovation grant, so there were 3 different phases of renovation. And one of them was the simulation lab, the center, and then also now coming up the amphitheater or the outdoor educational space. And so myself, along with Dr. Melissa Saul, Tiana Henderson, Kimberly Reed, Pohai Maderas, and many others, and even Dr. Judy Oliveira, we helped to design a lot of these spaces. And one of my kuleana, my responsibilities was to give the name for the lab as well as the center. And we had many different names that we picked, and even before the center opened, and that was maybe 3 years before, the first name was Kalamawai, it was something that came up. And over time, it has changed. And so Nāulu came about because Nāulu is the name of the rain that falls in that area of Honouliuli. And the type of rain just comes out of nowhere. It's a heavy downpour, and you might be walking around campus and it's a beautiful sunny day with no clouds in the sky, and then all of a sudden you could go in the building and come out and everything be wet. Or this rain would just come. And so we witnessed that several times. And so I thought, I think that would be a good name to have. And so not just myself, but our team, a part of people, I presented that Nāulu, we should, and especially nowadays, not many people use, we don't use traditional names. It's coming back, in many different settings, in cultural settings, that bringing traditional names of places, or winds or rains. And Hawaiians winning everything.
Yeah.
That was important to share the name of the rain, which is Nāulu. And we were looking that because water is so important in Hawaiian culture, as is in many cultures, and being that the area where campus is at is really hot, really dry, and so a nice good downpour, I guess, was the mana'o of that. And when things are, the environment looks like it's dead, just a little bit of rain, a little bit of water can really bring back the life to the area or the space. And so sat down with the rest of the team, and Nāulu was chosen to be the name of the center.
Mahalo for the story. During your time at Nāulu Center, you were asked to write an oli. Tell us the story, please.
I started at UH West Oahu, and then one of the things that I was tasked with was to write an oli. And so at that time, Chancellor Rocky Freitas was chancellor for UH West Oahu, and he really wanted an oli. So I was tasked with that, thinking that they wouldn't, thinking he was going to forget, but he didn't forget, and he continually asked, if the oli was finished. Well, I have to remind a lot of people that campus, UH West Oahu, was housed or was at Leeward Community College in the Pearl City area, or in the Puʻuʻs area that we call. So, and there, Dr. Leilani Bashon, who was a professor at West Oahu, wrote a beautiful oli that is done at graduation every semester. So, and talks about many places throughout the entire area, the entire district of Ewa. And so when campus moved to Honolulu, where it is now, Chancellor Freitas wanted an oli. And so Julie Oliveira, our vice chancellor, she was asked when she went over to West Oahu to write that oli, and she told him she's like, yeah, okay. And then when I got there, she kind of threw it on to me. And so during this time, and this is the beginning years of the PICO project, and I was probably maybe a year behind than some of the other coordinators who were already there. But this is a time where our pre-nursing program was getting started. Our simulation lab was being renovated, or designed and being renovated. And we were all in this little office upstairs in C building. But we were all in that little office there. And so we were also doing research about the area of Honolulu and the district or the moku of Ewa, and researching different places, wahipana, different stories that connected to that area or to the surrounding areas, and using those things to design the spaces, the color choices, carpets, and all these kinds of things that mostly the girls took care of. I mean, they had more patience to sit through it all. And I found a lot of interest in the stories, what we call ka'au, or the mo'olelo, legends and myths and stories, the history of the place. And so I did a lot of research on Honolulu and found different wahipana. And, just one day driving home from work, from Kapolei to back to town, after much thought and going through different process with research and whatnot, the leo for this oli just came, and the words just came as well, because I was able to connect the places, the wahipana, and just kind of tell a story. And so the oli, Mele Honolulu, is not a traditional kind of oli. It's more of a mele. It has more of a melodic sound. And so, yeah, the words came, the leo came, and I was able to put that oli together. And Mele Honolulu is, at first I remember the first time that I chanted it or sung it was at one of our pre-nursing sessions that we would have. And I remember a lot of our faculty or a lot of our staff, they was like, wow, where did that come from? And, I was like, I don't know, I just made that up. So it all, the leo, the words, that all just came. But that was because of the work that was being done, the research to build, to build designs for Nāulu and the amphitheater and, all of the different programming and things that we were doing. So, yeah, that answer your question?
Yes, it does. So, you created the beautiful oli. The students and staff of the Nāulu Center learned it and proudly shared it at several events, I believe, in public. But that wasn't it. Tell us about the wall.
The administration building, there is a wall with a topographic, I think it's a topographic map of the Evamoku, or the district of Eva. And, well, it's a topographical map of Honolulu. And it was designed, that design came from Brian. And in the lines of this map is the Mele Honolulu is written in each of the lines, that is, I guess, sections off different parts of the Ahupua'a or Honolulu. And so when I first I got an email actually from Judy Oliveira, who was like, look at this. They want to use this as the design for this wall. And at first I looked at it and I was like, okay, well, yeah, well, what is it? Yeah, okay, it's just a map. Like, and she said, look closer. You have to look closer and zoom in. And so, I did that and saw that the words to Mele Honolulu was written in these lines. And, I was like, wow, that's yeah, so, a great honor to see that and to be part of the UH West Oahu Ohana. So, yeah, I was definitely honored, but, that O'oli was, of course, a gift to Chancellor Freides, but also a gift to, all of my colleagues, students, and Ohana at West Oahu, So, yeah, that's the wall in the admin building. Hopefully that's the right wall you're talking about, Auntie.
Yes, sir. That's the right wall. Wow. Mahalo for your story. I hear you can tell other stories about some very special art pieces created just for Nāulu Center. Please tell us about the art.
So there are 3 pieces of artwork in Nāulu. 2 of those pieces are kapa pieces that done by Delani Tame, who is a master kapa maker. Those pieces speak about the area of Honolulu. Actually, both of all 3 of the art pieces speak about Honolulu. The kapa pieces not just speak about the place, but also speak about the programming type of programming that we were involved with, which was, nursing. So it looks at la'au la'pa'au. It talked about the anai, the mullet that would run around through Oʻahu, and that's where the area Waianae gets that name, because the anai fish would run past there, but also that the anai would spawn in Pu'uloa, or that area where Kapapa'apuhi, the fish pond, is located, in that area where everybody calls it Pearl Harbor today. And so those couple pieces tells the story of Honolulu. It tells the story of of the movement of the environment in the Ewa moku and also in the Waianae moku, and the connections that these places have, because as UH West Oahu being a university, a college, it's also a place of learning and bringing in the student from, many of the students in the leeward area or in Waianae Ewa now have a campus that is closer to them. And we found, doing, we found that many people, students, just taking nursery courses at UH Manoa would be, could be sitting, driving or sitting in traffic for up to 4 hours a day. But having West Oahu there really helped to provide a space, a place for many of our community members. And so those artwork kind of, they look at the history of these places and now in contemporary times and how we can connect those two and what those mean. And those are the kapa prints that are located. There's one, a long piece of kapa that is in one of the rooms on where the kitchen is located. And then another bigger piece of kapa, beautiful kapa, that also talks about the different ka'au or legends and myths that have happened in the area. And then the other piece of artwork beside the kapa pieces is a larger mural that was done by Kupi'ea. And it's really, it's a educational tool to share about, and visually, another fabulous piece of art that, when you look at it, it's amazing. You're in awe because of the detail of the work. I mean, the pictures and just, the artist's vision, and kind of gives you a peek into what he kind of sees in his own, through his eyes. But I think the attention to detail is just amazing. But that wall is an educational tool. That wall, that art piece is also another art piece that speaks about Honolulu, speaks about the district of Ewa, the stories of Hi'iaka i Kapolei Pele and her sister Pele, and that saga, that epic saga where Pele sends her sister Hi'iaka from Hawaii Island to Kauai to get her lover Lohiau and to bring him back. And so it kind of, it depicts the movement. Another, there we go again, the movement, and also Kapoʻulakina'u, who was another sister of Pele, and speaks about the hill in Kapolei, and really that's where that Kapolei comes from Kapoʻulakina'u, and there is a hill located right in, I guess you could say, downtown Kapolei, called Puʻu Kapolei, and that is also mentioned in the Oli Mele Honolulu. And so really we used that as an educational tool. We used it and with Kupi'ea and Tiana Henderson. And if you ever get a chance to sit with Kupi'ea or even with Tiana, they can probably tell the story much better than I did. But but it's those pieces are more than just artwork. They are educational tools that we use and we use to represent our movement in every day, going to college. The whole point of us putting a lot of these things together was to provide support to our students and to find solutions. Many times it's often in a higher education institution that the solution is a very Western one. But for us, we try to use indigenous solutions, Kanaka solutions to help our students succeed in school, because we find that in many of these stories that are being told through the olis, through the artwork, there are important lessons, important in all of the stories, in the art pieces, the stories that the art pieces, the oli, the chant, we can always find important lessons and themes to live by, to better ourselves, better our families, better our communities, and help one another out in every way that we can. And so that is just some of the work that not just myself but all of us in the People Project, the beginning crew, just some of the things that we were doing. And some of the people we were able to connect with, like Auntie Delany and Michelle. I would say, my time at UH West Oahu was an awesome time to be there. It was, a new campus, new faces, new spaces, and really an opportunity for myself and many of us, especially those of us who are Kanaka, are Native Hawaiian, to be able to write another chapter in the story, not just be on the wayside to watch it happen, but to be part of it, the planning, the coordinating, the building, and that's a big thing, I think, in especially in these times, and many of our our kupuna, our makua who came before us have done many awesome things in the community. But I think for many of us young Hawaiian educators, that was an awesome thing to be a part of and to be led by awesome leaders. And that was important, and it was a lot of work. I spent many, many days and nights there, many hours, and it was all worth it. And I only have, I only have the good memories outweigh all of the junk memories. So I have to say that I really, really love that place and the people there, and the students, and it is rewarding to, when you see students graduating, beginning their careers as nurses, and just to know, like, wow, I had a part in that, and wow, I had a part in, creating or building, designing, creating these spaces. I always used to tell my students that, when you're going to a place like coming to school, it becomes part of your genealogy. Even if you went to school for just one day, it's a part of your genealogy. And it's important to hold on to those things and share them with your ohana and your community. And then my final thing would be, and I always used to tell the students at West Oahu, is that, when you go to college, you have to want to be there. You want to be there because you realize that you wanted to do something better for you. But doing something better for yourself means that you're doing something better for your family. And when your family is doing better, the community is doing better. And the community doing better, then the whole lahui is better off. So,
Mahalo for that. UH West Oahu and the Nāulu Center is a strong foundation which supports our community, but the heart is the people whose lives have been changed and touched by it. Mahalo nui for giving us the inside scoops. Your first-hand knowledge of the history of our school oli. Aloha nui.
Thank you, Auntie. Mahalo for having me.